So there are 3 golden rules when it comes to bootstrapping a SaaS business. Number 1, never enter a crowded market. Number 2, never bootstrap a freemium product. And number 3, never hire a team in a Western country. You need to go global from day 1 to keep costs under control. My guest today is Marie Martens. She has built a $2 million a year business by taking that rulebook and throwing them all out the window. Marie, welcome to the show.
Thanks. I was getting scared by the introduction. Yeah, we broke all the rules there, but thanks for having me.
I want to dive deep into how you've actually built the business, and we'll discuss some of the tactics that you used along the way later on. But first, just for anyone who isn't familiar with Tally yet, can you tell us what is Tally and who is it for?
Yeah, Tally is a really simple way to create online forms and surveys. So a contact form to embed on your website, a way to create a quiz, some tools for lead generation. You want to collect signups for your newsletter. All of that is possible with Tally in a pretty intuitive interface. So it's usually used by marketeers, product managers, and startups in general.
And the $1 million question, I suppose $2 million question, from the outside looking in, forms is a really, really, really crowded space. And there are a lot of options out there that are free, and it's really difficult to compete with free. So what is your secret sauce? What's the unique insight that you guys had? How have you guys been able to make it work?
Because we're bootstrapped, right? So we're a small team, as you mentioned. We don't have any investors on board. So we knew we had to do something different from the beginning to differentiate ourselves. And we experienced by ourselves that the existing form builders didn't really cut it for us. And I would define them. I mean, this is a bit short-sighted maybe, but in 2 big groups, you have Google Forms. It's free. It's actually pretty powerful, but it just doesn't look great, or at least that's what we thought. You cannot really, design or just look and feel to make it fit your brand. So that's the one part. And then on the other part, you have players like a Typeform, right? The forms look really amazing. We've always been inspired by Typeform as well. But it gets really expensive, especially when you're just starting out. And that's something we also experienced. We wanted to make a Typeform for a previous business. You collect 10 submissions, you hit the paywall, and you're like, what? Like, that's just not a nice experience. And we've always, try to build things and solve problems that we experience ourselves. And we thought, if we see this, there must be at least a very small niche of this very big market that might be interested in something different. And so we decided to kind of create a modern way to create forms. So heavily inspired by Notion, the Notion interface. There's no drag and dropping. It's just like a text editor interface. You just start typing, with shortcuts you can start building your form. And then we went all out for no volume-based pricing, so basically offering unlimited forms and submissions for free, which a lot of people would declare us crazy for that choice, but we kind of had to do this because we didn't have any marketing budget, and the free forms are what keeps us growing. So it's really product-led growth. You make forms to share with other people. On the free forms, you have the Tally branding. People fill out your form, they discover us, they're like, oh, this form looks nice, I'm gonna click. And that's how Tally has been growing, and that's kind of how Tally differentiates itself in a pretty crowded market.
Talk me through the business model a little bit more. What led you to deciding on a freemium model? Was it the idea that you wanted to be product-led from the very beginning? Was it a marketing play or a product play or a differentiation play? Like, what made you decide to go with a freemium model?
Yeah, a bit of a combination of everything. Like, it had to be product-led for us in order for it to work with a small team and with small budgets. So it's not really possible to bootstrap a product that needs, larger investments in marketing. Like, if we would enter a market where we need to educate the market, right? We wouldn't have the budgets for that. So that's why the crowded space was actually good for us. Like, you don't really need to explain why people need forms. Every business needs a form at one point. They just need to pick the one that they, want to use, that they like the most, or that is the most affordable. So that's kind of what we tap into. And basically from our free users, so we have close to 800,000 users worldwide right
Wow.
now. By now, it's around 2% converts to Tally Pro. And Tally Pro just offers additional features. So basically, you want to remove that branding, what helps us grow. You can do that with Tally Pro. You have more customization features. You have custom domains where you can host your forms on, team collaboration, everything that are kind of no-brainers when you work in a team, when you're a startup. And it's priced at $29 a month, which is also basically the most affordable option that we could find at the time. So we just looked at the cheapest plan from any competitor and went for that pricing point. And that's as far as our research went. And it's still the same price.
And it works. Clearly you picked the right price point.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the 2% of users who convert. So from what I've seen of freemium products, there are some freemium products where people will naturally convert to paid eventually, depending on where you delineate those pricing plans, or how you decide this is included in the free bundle and this is included in the paid plan. And some businesses, they have free users that basically exist to be evangelists, and they're a noisy kind of small group of people. And so the ones who are going to pay for it pay fairly quickly, and the ones who are going to use it for free never really end up converting, but they pay for it in terms of marketing, essentially. Yeah. Which camp does Tally fall into? Hey, it's Ryan here. I'm glad you're enjoying the video. Listen, if you want to meet me or some of the people that I interview, you should really join the Startup Source SaaS Founder community. It's a private Slack group for SaaS founders based outside of Silicon Valley who are past the idea stage and want to focus on growth. About 30% of our members are doing over $1 million a year in revenue, so it's a pretty high caliber group. You'll get access to regular mastermind calls and workshops, and every week we share exclusive marketing tactics and resources that you can use to grow your business faster. So, if you want to give yourself an unfair advantage and learn from other SaaS founders who are 1 or 2 steps ahead of you, head over to startupsource.com and sign up. I think there's a link in the description down below as well. Anyway, I'll see you in there.
We have a bit of both. Most businesses upgrade instantly or within a week because they're like, okay, I want to remove the branding, it needs to fit into the company design. So it's kind of a no-brainer also because of the low price point. Yeah. But then we also have users that and it's crazy because someone recently shared it on Reddit. They were like, I've received so much value from Tally over the years that for me it kind of became a no-brainer to upgrade because I've already got so much in return. And that's something that we have experienced as well. Like we started our company using Notion for free, Slack for free, Figma for free. And at one point you're like, the team grows, there's more team members, or you just need that little bit more. And it kind of feels, you're almost guilty that you're not paying because you've received so much and it's so embedded in your workflows. And so that's what we're really going for. And people seem to understand and experience that as well. But most companies upgrade immediately. And then we have users that, that will always be on the free plan because it just covers a lot of their needs. And that is fine for us. We haven't actually, since this year, we started shipping pro features again, but the past 2 years, everything that we shipped, and we ship something every week, has been free. So we're really investing a lot in the free audience. Yeah.
I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. A lot of people that I talk to about building freemium products, they obsess about how do I get more people to upgrade from free to paid instead of thinking about how can I make the free product so awesome that people want to tell the world about it, because that will naturally attract people that are going to pay for it as well. And it starts that nice kind of viral loop where people discover the product, create a form, share the form, people see the logo, create their own form, and like you were saying, that whole product-led loop before. How did you get your initial traction?
Very manually. We did cold outreach. So we, and to go into detail, we literally just had a Google sheet, and the first tab was friends and family. And we just listed like 50 people and just said, okay, this is the form builder. It was the MVP. So you couldn't even publish a form. You could just play around with it. And we were just wondering if people would get it, right? Like, is it a bit too flexible? And so we did that, and we're just literally, looking over the shoulders of like friends and aunts and grandmas that were like trying to figure out how it worked. And we saw, I mean, from the start, like, it might not work for everyone. It's definitely a different experience than building a Google form, but we thought that would be good for our niche, you know, to launch in. And so we did that just to gather feedback. And then, so it was just Philip and me in the beginning. Philip is my technical co-founder, but also partner in life. And so he would be building all the time. And then after a month, we started making lists of prospects, and how we did it was we would just go on Product Hunt, because we figured that, you know, we were on Product Hunt ourselves, so people that might be interested in it, you know, would be there as well. And then we would just list no-code tools, so productivity tools and other form builders, so anything like that. And then we would check, and I think it has changed now, but at the time you could see everyone who had upvoted them with their name. There's no contact details, but then we would like scrape those and then just put them in a Google Sheet. And then I would just look for their email, their Twitter DM, their LinkedIn profile, anything like that. All manually. I think today it would be a bit easier. And then we would just drop them a message like, hey, we're building this. I see you are a designer or you have experience in this. We would really appreciate your feedback. You know, it's free. Do you want to try it out? And we did this for 6 months, contacted thousands of people. So this was just like my full-time job. And then everyone who would come in would join our Slack channel. And then they could talk to Philip and to me and say like, hey, I like it, but maybe you should change this and this and this. So that's what we did. And just by doing that, we got to 1,000 users. And we were lucky that a few, of course, we would also target some people that have a larger reach, that might share it. You know, we would never ask, but some people just did because they kind of liked what we were building. So we thought, okay, there's definitely something here. And we did that for, like 6 months. And then we decided to launch it on Product Hunt. So we had like that initial batch of users, and they could also support us on launch day. Right. So that was pretty important for us. And we wanted to do it earlier, but we also had a baby in those 6 months, so it got a bit delayed. And then we launched, and it went really well. We didn't become product number one of the day, but we doubled our user base in one day. We got our first paying customers, because in the beginning you couldn't even pay for the product. We didn't install Stripe yet; it was just all free. And then we had 2,000 users. We got a lot of feedback. We got a lot of visibility. Of course, this is almost 5 years ago. You know, Product Hunt has changed as well. So we did that, and then having that first, 2,000 users, kind of the viral loop started kicking in, and organic growth started. And we didn't have to do cold outreach anymore because people were finding us. So that's how it started. Yeah.
So that was the critical mass that you needed, that first 2,000 users, and then things.
I think so. Yeah.
Sometimes people ask, how many people do I need for some kind of product-led motion to work? And it's like, you still need to get the critical mass. Yeah. Yeah,
I don't know how much exactly, but for us, this was really the point where I noticed, like, people are coming in, and it's not because I'm texting them or sending them messages, so something has changed. So that was definitely like a tipping point for us. Yeah.
I had a mentor once who said, if you want money, ask for advice, and if you want advice, ask for money. So I think your direct outreach approach of asking for feedback, did you find people were a lot more receptive to that than, hey, let's get on a demo call?
Yeah.
And did you invite people into the Slack community straight away, or did you get a few people on board first and then think, hey, maybe we should invite them to give them some other way to formalize the way that we're asking for feedback?
If people would reply and they seemed interesting, then we would. And it was also just open for everyone, because we also didn't have a help center or a support team or anything like that. So the Slack channel was just on the website as well, and everyone could enter. And we did that for 2 or 3 years. So anyone could enter if they wanted. And that worked really well, especially in the first years, we had to close it at one point because it turned into a 24/7 live support chat, and that was not good for our mental health.
And you never get anything else done if you're just available all the time for So that Slack channel no longer exists, but you have other stuff in place.
It does, but we closed it. So we kept because we did want to keep, that direct communication line with the firsts. There's 3,000 people in there.
Wow.
And only if you if it's really necessary, or if we want you in there, then we would invite you. But it's not like an open thing anymore, so you kind of need to get invited. And it's still super useful for us because the early users are in there, so we can still ask for feedback. It is a lot less active than I would want it to be. I'm actually kind of working on that, but I would kind of want to just narrow it down again and have a smaller group of really, engaged users. But so it still exists, yeah.
I know one problem that comes up a lot. People talk about, the easy bit of advice is talk to your customers. But a lot of people that I talk to that are building SaaS businesses are like, well, they don't want to talk to me. I'm trying to get them on a phone call. I'm trying to reach out and talk to them, and nobody's responding. So did you find that if you've got them in a Slack group, that's an easier way to get them to give you some feedback? It's a bit more natural, or did you try other approaches too?
I think I also get a lot of emails and cold DMs, and I would never go on a phone call. I mean, no one has the time for that. It also kind of, for me, it felt a bit too pushy. So I felt like just an email or a DM, people can, ignore it, or they can reply if it would be relevant, which is what people did. And then, of course, Slack is a bit easier if you want to continue the conversation, because you can just talk, but, you don't have to be on a call. So for our audience, that felt like a better fit. We are also not really like salespeople by nature, so we also didn't want to hop on calls and do demos. We've never done a demo for Tally. It was all self-serve, right? It's like, here it is, let us know what you think. Yeah.
That's awesome. And so beyond the product-led viral loop that you've got in place, what do you do to acquire customers now? Like, how do people find out about Tally if not through seeing a form and seeing your branding there?
We've done a bit of everything. We haven't tried a lot of paid, so most of the growth has been organic. We actually tried Google search ads for the first time last month and realized that we don't think we can get it profitable with our contract, or our lifetime value is pretty low. Competition is pretty high, so I don't know. I don't think we'll be able to figure out that formula. What do? We've been building in public since day one. So we've been very, very transparent about the numbers, what goes good, what goes wrong. And it kind of turned into a blog, which is like our personal diary with like bigger milestone updates, things that we share. And I think that has given us an audience. Maybe also more of a personal audience. It's mainly me sharing stuff. Used to be on Twitter, it's now a bit more on LinkedIn. And I guess the kind of founder-led, brand has kind of worked for us, just because we've been very transparent, and because we're a super small team, me and Philip, it's like we are Tally, and I think that kind of resonates because it's just part of our story. So for us, it felt very natural to keep on sharing everything. It kind of originated from the indie hacker space, where we kind of launched, and you have the indie hackers platform where it's pretty normal to post updates and like revenue milestones. So we did that, and then we just thought, we can just, if we share it here, we can also share it on Twitter, or we can, share it anywhere. And that's kind of how it started. I think now it's very popular to do that, but at the time it just felt like more of a natural thing to do, and it just grew. And after a few years, we also realized the potential of it. So this is more of, I would say, PR part. Then we've done some SEO, like we created competitor pages, but nothing crazy. Like I think we have 10 pages in total. But if we make them, we do try to make them really well. We don't just drop anything in there. We really research competitors. We try to have more or less an objective, page. And I think that has worked for us, especially for Typeform. Like we have a pretty high-ranking Typeform alternative page. So things like that. And then a big part has been social listening, where we basically track mentions of any form builder, any conversation of someone that is looking for a form builder, or mentions of our brand, of course, and we try to engage in a relevant way. So it would mostly be someone posts on Reddit like, hey, I want to have a feedback form with an automation, with Zapier and send it to my CRM. Okay, those keywords will pop up in our Slack channel, so I would immediately see them, and then that would basically be my job to just reply. It's also not very scalable. We actually just hired someone to help us with that, because I still really believe in the power of it.
Yeah.
And actually, by doing that, we now are getting, since the past 3 months, so word of mouth and search, but it's mostly branded search because people have heard about Tally, have always been our biggest acquisition channels, together with the powered by branding. And since 2 months ago, it has shifted, and now we're getting the most leads from AI search, so ChatGPT mostly.
Wow.
And we're starting to learn, or it feels a bit like the Wild West, but what we've learned by now is that brand mentions, engagement, sentiment are a lot more important there than with SEO, where it's more like a numbers game. And so actually what we've been doing the past years has really helped us to rank pretty high in ChatGPT, for example. And so since I think last month we got 20,000 new users just coming from ChatGPT. So we only just started tracking it. So the game is completely changing. And luckily, it's working for us, but it's not something we intentionally did or that we predicted.
I had Rand Fishkin from Spark Toro on the podcast a little while ago, and that was something he was talking about too. Like he made the argument that everyone's talking about AI killing SEO, and he said, yeah, but it's kind of been doing that for 10 years by this point. It's not a new thing. And he was talking about direct, like, brand mentions in search, so branded searches. So if you're doing all the founder-led growth stuff, if you're the face of the company, if you're engaging in communities, doing the social listening, mentioning, and word spreads about your product, that's the product that people are going to be searching for. And when ChatGPT tries to figure out what are the top 3 options, you're going to be one of them, because so many people are talking about you. There's so much buzz being generated about you. And if you with a traditional SEO strategy, you kind of lose that visibility because you're focusing on the keywords rather than building the brand. So it sounds like, that's worked out very well for you. One question I wanted to ask you was, you mentioned Product Hunt before, and then you mentioned that it's changed a little bit since then. I've heard that Product Hunt maybe isn't as effective as it used to be. I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's been a while. We actually did a second launch, I think it was in 2023, where we launched Tally 2.0. We had new features, a redesign, like a new version. And actually that still worked very well for us, but I think it's also just because our audience is there. Because since then, we actually started growing faster again. But we won product of the day, of the month, of the year. Like we won the whole thing. So for us, it has worked. But it's been 2 years, and I've heard a lot of bad things since then about Product Hunt. I also must admit that I see myself visiting the site less. And I feel like we kind of, I think what you've seen is that there's a lot of launches of anything, right? So there's a course, there's nothing wrong with that, but the value or the products that are being shared are, I feel like maybe it just has been treated with less respect from the creator side, and maybe we just like broke it ourselves. We've always tried to not just launch anything on Product Hunt, and so if we launched, it was, like the last one was a year of work. It's not just a weekend project, and I think that kind of what happened. Is that you just every update, every release became a Product Hunt launch. And it was just not interesting anymore. So there was also a lot of abuse, fake upvotes and all of that, which we also noticed in our last launch, where we noticed that the team was very aware and also checking upon us if we were not like asking for upvotes and anything like that, because, then you get kicked out. And so I think the vibe has changed. I still really believe in the idea, of the platform, but I'm not sure if it's that effective anymore.
So then that begs the next question, which is, if you were starting Tally today with what you know now, how would you launch it differently, or how would you approach it differently?
I think I would do exactly the same. I would still launch on Product Hunt, but I would probably really double down on the building in public and share a lot more and build a brand around your persona, and just share everything. And we're not that consistent, as in we share like once every couple of months, but you have, there's people that do it really well. You have the OGs like Peter Levels, for example, but there's some founders and creators that are great at it, but you just need to find the right balance between selling and actually sharing useful stuff and learnings, right? So I think actually today even more I would commit to that and to the social listening and so on, because I think that they'll become even more important. Yeah.
Do you use any tools for the social listening, or have you built something in-house, or how does that work?
Yeah, we've used several tools. I've used Siften, and then built by an indie hacker, and now Octolens.
Cool.
I really like the tool. It's still very young, but they're doing a great job. And we actually, we track a lot of stuff, and then we just sync it to Slack, and now also to Missive. Missive is our shared email inbox. So every mention is an email. It's like a ticket, and it makes it easier for us to just sift through them, add comments, add actions to them, and identify certain, maybe someone that could be a good ambassador or someone we want to work with, experimenting a little bit with influencer marketing now as well. But that's still very, very early. But so, we use Octolens now just to track keywords, form builder, but anything that we find relevant, and it's pretty intuitive, and that's how we try to stay up to date. Yeah.
And just making sure that you're a part of that conversation, that feels like really important, especially with the ChatGPT stuff. Yeah,
and also making sure that it's actually a part of the job. So we recently hired a social media and community manager, and so part of her job is every day for a couple of hours to go through them. And I have them on Slack, so actually now I see things, so I need to turn them off, but I see it constantly, and it helps you so much to just stay up to date, to see if something new is being launched, to see if someone said, what the general vibe is of how people are talking about your brand. So I'm pretty obsessed by it. Yeah,
I think a lot of people on Reddit in particular, a lot of people are afraid of being too salesy when they do that social listening stuff. Do you have any tips or advice on how to approach that in a way that doesn't get you banned?
Yeah, what we don't do is fake threats. So you spot them immediately, like, I'm looking for. It's staged, right? Like when you ask a question and then immediately you pitch your own product as the first answer. So we don't do that, and we just try to answer when it's relevant. So it's literally like, you're looking for this specific thing. And we're not just going to say use Tally, but then we try to say like, hey, this is the help article, this is how you can set up this workflow. If you can actually add some value, then you're not going to get banned, right? Then you're just sharing something that is relevant. Is there hacks? I mean, before, I don't really do that anymore. I think a few years ago, we would just ask people to upvote our comments, like, oh, can you just give me an upvote, someone in the team, so you appear a bit higher.
Yeah.
But that doesn't really, move the needle. But I think if you're just genuinely like, oh, I have a solution to this problem, then you answer. And if you don't, then you don't. So it's... I guess that's what makes it a bit more difficult as well, because sometimes there's just nothing to reply to, and it's not super scalable in a way, and it's more of a long-term investment, I think.
But there's a world of difference between getting bots and having an army of Reddit accounts that goes... Like, I run the SaaS marketing subreddit, and you can tell immediately when someone is just there to flog their own stuff. Yeah. There's a world of difference between having... I think most other moderators would tell you the same thing, but if someone wants to come into particularly an entrepreneurial type of subreddit, okay, there's going to be a bit of hustle. That's fine. That's okay. Yeah. I'm okay people talking about their own stuff, especially if you built something awesome that's legitimately helpful and relevant. But when you look at the post history and all they've done is talk about how great their product is everywhere and haven't engaged in anything else, that's when you start, that person's asking for a ban. Like, that's just spammy and annoying. Yeah,
and I think for you that must happen a lot in this specific subreddit. Yeah,
you'd be surprised, and like it's, I think people don't see the other side of things as well, because from a moderator's perspective, what you want to do is you want to have a place where people have interesting conversations and give really good advice and genuinely help each other out. But when you've got people that just come in and spam it, that just ruins it for everybody. So you have to, kind of crack down on that. But it's so easy to do it right. It just requires a little bit of love and attention and nuance, rather than
and a bit of patience as well, I guess. There's one Reddit conversation, and it's called how the fuck, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this.
Please do.
Does something like Tally succeed? That's the title.
Yeah.
And it's just, it just keeps on going, and it's just people discussing, like, what did they do? Oh, I read this article, and they just go really deep into analyzing. Yeah. There's some super funny stuff in there. Yeah. And then, of course, we noticed it. But then I'm like, okay, those are the useful conversations. Yeah. Like, people actually start digging, and then you see some random brand like commenting on it, and it's just so wrong. Like you're like, that's not gonna help you. It's not the right place.
Absolutely. Let's change tack a little bit and talk about the product itself. Was there ever a temptation to move beyond being a form builder? Did you think that we can't build a business out of it just being a form builder? We need to build something else on top of it. Did that ever occur to you?
Yeah, so that's actually how we started, is that we thought a form builder would not cut it. So we were like, like what everyone said, there's tons of form builders out there, like you're gonna launch just another one. So we thought it needs to be something more. And I think we were more going into the direction of like an Airtable, like it needs to have a database, but there also needs to be relationship, like something where you can track the contacts across forms, maybe a CRM, like all of that was like going through our heads. So we even have mock-ups and try to figure out how it would work. But then at one point we said like, okay, let's just start building and we'll see. Like, let's just start, with the basics, just build a simple form builder. And so now we're 5 years further. We're still just building a form builder, and we have a feature request and a roadmap for another 5 years. So I think we're fine. I think the switch that we made is, okay, we don't have the goal to become a really big company or team, at least in team size. And we kind of want to focus on doing one thing exceptionally well. So as well there, we do the complete opposite of all our competitors. They're building suites, right? A lot of tools that work well with forms. So we say no to that, and we just try to build the best form builder and try to be good at this one thing. And that's kind of a decision we made, I think, pretty early on. But when we started, we also thought, like, this is not going to cut it. We need to do more. And now we kind of enjoy just doing this. And, you know, we're just a team of, it's just 5 full-time people now. And we have more than enough work on our plates. So no plans in that direction, no.
I had a conversation the other day, and we were talking about if you're bootstrapping, sometimes people have a fear that a VC-backed competitor will pop up and take your lunch. I don't know if that's something that's ever occurred to you, but the thought process when we're having that conversation is most VC-backed companies fail. And they usually fail for the same reason. They need to grow super, super, super fast. So they start off with something that's good, but then they need to keep on building because that's not enough. So they need to keep on building and add this feature and add that feature. And we need to reach a wider market. We need to go up market. We need to be able to, cater to enterprise customers. And they lose their soul along the way. And then they have to increase the price in order to cover the cost of all those new features. And suddenly that original market that they started with can't afford it anymore, and they look for a different solution. So I think there's a lot of wisdom in being able to say, hey, look, this is our audience. These are the people that we're building for, and we want to build the very best product for this particular audience. And you can build a really sizable business doing that. Maybe not $1 billion unicorn, but who wants the stress of doing that?
Yeah, I think it's a different mindset. We never started Tally with the idea of becoming the next Belgian unicorn. It doesn't mean we're not ambitious. It's just a different way of growing. We grow at our own pace. We don't have the external pressure of a board. That's something we just didn't want. So we really enjoy being independent. And it is literally, as you said, like a lot of VC-backed companies have, made Tally copies or form builders. There's actually a new one every 2 weeks. So you kind of get used to it. But after a while, you also realize like you cannot be too focused on it. And it is a huge market and they will grab, some part of it. But then you see they start changing the product, they start raising the prices, and they just become less interesting. But still, there's always the fear of, it's tomorrow someone come in and build something better and faster. And we definitely see that and feel that. But I guess throughout the years, kind of learned to be a bit less stressed by competition and just focus on ourselves. Because there will always be competition. We saw a lot of new form builders in the indie hacker space as well, because we've been very open about Tally and and the revenue and the numbers. So people are like, oh, I can do this as well. The thing is, you can you can try to copy something, but you still need to show up every day for multiple years to actually execute it, and so that takes some time. So you will always be behind a little bit. So that's kind of what I say to myself, not to get stressed out by competition. Well,
they do say that, especially with all the vibe coding stuff now, you can it's very difficult to differentiate just on product. You need to have a moat that's distribution, basically. And being the face of your company, or being that founder-led growth side of things, is so important with that, because that's something that no one else can replicate. I don't know if you've seen that, or you agree with that or disagree with that, but
no, I totally agree. And I even think with vibe coding, I think for now it's actually a good thing for us, because a lot more people are building apps and platforms, but they're not necessarily building entire forms with the backend in it. So there's just a lot more businesses that are going live, and I need forms, and I need something plug and play. And I kind of think that it might actually be a good thing for us. I mean, at least that's what we hope.
I like that. Tell me about the decision to bootstrap. Was that something that you made consciously from the very beginning? Or did you try and raise money and didn't work out, so you just kept on building the product anyway? How did that look for you?
Tally is not the first startup that me and Philip started together. We actually had we always had the dream to build something. Philip has been building startups from way before we met. So he's just, this is what he does, it's what he lives for. And when we met, we're both like dreamers by nature. We always kind of wanted to do something. And so the first idea we had was in the travel industry. So it was something completely different. And our idea was more like, imagine that we can create a sustainable lifestyle business for ourselves. And we can do it and be digital nomads because we wanted to move to Bali and we wanted to surf and code on the beach, So that was the dream. And that was kind of what we were working towards with the first startup. But then COVID hit. It's exactly the same, 1 month later. And so we were actually in Bangkok, and then, so we were on our way to Bali. We had to fly back after 1 week, and we went into lockdown for the next year. And that's a few months later, then we came up with Tally because we had to do something else. So the bootstrapping, it was just kind of normal because we thought if we can make more money than we would as employees, because I had just quit my job, or than we would as freelancers, that would be amazing. And we build a SaaS and it's recurring, and that was just the dream. So we didn't really have this mindset of we need to raise money and we need to grow a big team. So I think that's important just to know or to understand why we grew in this way. And then as well, Philip had sold his last startup, so we had a bit of runway. And that's also important to mention. We knew that we could survive for at least a year with 2 people without earning money. So that kind of really helped us to do this and to pay the bills, while we were building. And then we got, after our first product hunt launch, a lot of interest from investors, and we started doubting. We're like, shouldn't we? And are we maybe not being ambitious by doing this? But then maybe, as I mentioned before, I have a 1-year-old son and a 4-year-old daughter. So all of this happened in the time, since we launched Tally. And our lives have been completely, they've changed a lot, but they've been pretty chaotic. We've tried to schedule this podcast at least 10 times probably. So that's the example. And we felt like we need flexibility, and we cannot report to investors at this stage of our lives. Like, we need to run our own business. And that was actually a really important part of the decision, because we're a couple working together, and we had, we wanted kids, and we didn't want to postpone that, which in hindsight was also not the best decision, like launching a startup and having kids, but you don't know that before you have kids. And so all of that together kind of made us decide to stay bootstrapped. And I think now it's really kind of like part of our DNA, and I wouldn't want to change it. Yeah.
How do you make that work? So if you're a couple, you've got kids, and you're building a business together, do you have any kind of rules or boundaries? Like, how do you manage that situation?
Yeah, in the beginning it was one big blur. So very chaotic, working from home for 4 years, in a small apartment, in the same room, with your partner, with newborns, crawling around. So that was really difficult. And then we figured out, okay, we'll need some rules and some boundaries. So we kind of learned as we grew. First, you need to learn how to work with your partner. So you also become kind of colleagues and co-founders. So I think that was the first step for me, is like how to give and receive feedback from your partner. That's something very different than from a person you usually work with. And I think we kind of got used to that. And then what helped for us is that we have really strict separation of responsibilities. So Philip is product, design development, and we decide together what we're gonna build, what we want to invest in. But he owns, the rest of the process. And then I just run marketing, operations, anything else that is not basically building Tally. I've done support for multiple years, all of that. And so that kind of helped, because we each respect each other in each other's skills, and we're pretty compatible there. So that helps. And then only since last year, we have a very strict shift schedule, and that's just something that we learned that we needed. It might not work for everyone, but for us, it does. And it means there's 2 shifts. There's a morning shift and an evening shift. And basically, if you have the morning shift, it sounds very negative, but it's just, it works pretty well for us. You get up and you prepare the kids and yourself, and you bring them to school or daycare, and only then you go to work. So you start work later, but in the evening you're free, so you can work until whenever you want, because then the other person who had the morning off, so you could basically, 7 a.m. you can go to work, you can start working, but you need to stop at 5 to pick up the kids. So either you have the morning, either you have the evening, and that switches every week.
Yeah.
And there's no exceptions. So if you have a birthday or you want to meet with friends, you can do all of that, but you do your shift first. And that gives us like peace of mind, I guess. Helps with planning, helps to avoid discussions, and also helps us to both put the hours, that we want to do during the day. And I mean, obviously, we usually work more in the evenings, and we probably, turned into workaholics as well by now. But this really helped, just to have a really clear structure.
I think a lot of people have some reservations about working with their romantic partner, because what happens if work stress bleeds into home life and everything else? So everyone I've talked to has, found a way of structuring it that works for them. So I love the morning shift, evening shift. I think that's a great idea.
I think you have to. And I also sometimes think that we would not be able to build Tally if it was just one of us, because the other person would get so annoyed. Like, we talk about this all the time. It's like a third baby. We're always working. I mean, we always sometimes need to work on moments that are not, the most pleasant, like on holiday or in weekends, but we're both in it, so we don't mind if someone else is, with their laptop on the beach, and then the other person takes care of the kids. And I think if you're not both in it, it's very hard to understand this, and to also, accept that it needs to happen. So I think that kind of, works well for us. But obviously it has its downsides as well. It's really hard to set the boundaries, and there's not really a work-life balance. I mean, I would lie to say that we have that. We have the structure in place, but it kind of stops there.
I've heard people say work-life balance is a bit of a myth if you're building a business. Like,
yes.
that's fine if you're a normal employee and you've got a normal job, but if you're an entrepreneur, it's really hard to shut this down. You're thinking about it all the time. So it's a case of managing it rather than just I'm not thinking about work anymore. That makes sense.
Indeed.
And tell me about your team. So you have a team based in Belgium now. What led you to do that as opposed to building the remote team, which is what everyone seems to recommend? Yeah,
we started fully remote. So we thought also, that this was the way to go for us. And the first people we hired were so it was someone for customer support, and then 2 engineers. It was fully remote, and it was really difficult for us because I think we were used to being just the 2 of us and just building, a product, but building a team is something completely different. So first of all, communication, but also the trust. We had some issues with people that we hired that, didn't show up, that weren't doing the job well. Of course, also for us, we were still very much in the process of everything was in our head, so we had to start documenting, onboarding. So I think a combination of all of that, it just made it really difficult to have a remote team. We were also missing a bit of the team vibe and culture that we actually had in our previous jobs. Like, we had worked at startups before, and we always really had really good connections with colleagues, and we were missing that. And then last year we found an office where I'm sitting now in Ghent, and we decided to not work from home anymore and to move here. And we're in a startup campus surrounded by other startups, doing the same things, and that really helped us. It motivated us, I think, and we just felt like that the first team members, like the core team, that these people kind of needed to be with us in the office so we could actually onboard them well, train them well, and just, make them really part of the company. And it was just easier for us to do that in person than over Slack, basically. And then we hired our first full-time engineer here. So we had to fire the other people, but then hired first full-time engineer here, which was also a friend of ours, but also someone that we've worked with before. And that just felt a lot easier. And then it just kind of made sense to hire someone else. So we have 2 engineers right now, and me and Philip that are in Ghent in the office. But then by now we have 4 people that work part-time for Tally, and they are remote. And so actually it's 5 people since this week. And so 4 people on customer support. And they each have a shift of 4 hours, so we kind of cover daytime and nighttime for us. They're based in Europe and in the States. And then one, Emily, who's a community and social media manager, she's based in the States. And so they are part-time working for Tally. And then in Ghent we have now 4 people, myself, Philip, and then the two engineers. So that's how the team looks like now. So it's starting to be a combination of office and remote, but we feel like for support, for example, it works pretty well remotely. Yeah. So it also kind of depends on the type of job and role, and we feel comfortable with how it is now. It might still change in the future, but definitely we never work from home anymore. Everyone comes to the office every day, and it's a completely different vibe and way of working, I feel like, than what we had before. So I think it's just a personal choice as well. Yeah.
Do you have anything that you look for that you think makes a really good startup employee? Are there any personality traits or anything that comes up in the interviews? Like, how do you tell whether someone's probably going to be a good fit or not?
I think for me, the cultural fit is the most important thing. So is it someone that you just get along with well? Because in the end, you need to work together a lot of hours. And then is it someone that is willing to, it's not just put in the hours, but someone that I think has a positive mindset, that is curious, that also wants to learn and wants to go for it, and that is not too, like we always say, you have strong opinions but loosely held. Like, if you realize that something else is more important, you just shift and you go. So I think quite broad profiles. I don't think right now we can use really experts, because everyone in the team does a bit of everything. It's not the engineers do a lot more than just writing code, and so I think that's what I look for. But just someone who is by nature, a good fun person that wants to learn, and that is also not too junior. That's also something for us, especially for the first employees. We really need people that can manage a lot and that can work independently. And maybe in a few years, we can train juniors, but I think right now we're just not equipped for that yet. Yeah.
Marie, do you have any advice to anyone who's running a SaaS business or any kind of business and watching this or listening to this? And is there anything that you've learned or any nuggets of wisdom that you tell that person to help them grow their business a bit faster?
People always ask me that. I find it a very difficult question. I feel like what I didn't do and what I do a lot more now is just to ask for advice. So I was very much in my own bubble, not really looking for, like, just surrounding yourself, if it's online or in real life, with like-minded people that really motivates you. For us, for example, being a bootstrap startup, there's not a lot of people that do the same thing like us, and especially in the past years, like working from home, it just didn't help. We were very much in our own bubble, and I think just reaching out to people, and just people that are just a few steps ahead, not the people that are like 100 million ARR, because that's just not tangible enough. But there's a lot of people that are willing to help if you just send them a DM. Last week, for example, I talked to, I don't know if you know Raycast, the tool. They have a very interesting marketing team. They call it the hype team. They don't really have a marketing manager, but they have different types of profiles that they put together. It's basically more of a community person face of the brand, and then they have a video editor, and then they have an engineer that just builds stuff with the product constantly. And I thought, oh, that's such a cool way of working. I wonder how they do it. And so I just sent him a DM, and he's like, oh yeah, we can talk tomorrow. And so these people make time for you, and you can perfectly just have a half an hour chat and just ask away. And I think that's something you learn throughout the years, and you can get a no, but if someone says yes, just go for it. So definitely ask for advice, but then as well, don't take all the advice. Like, there's so many people saying, how you started the podcast, right? Like, you should not enter this market, you shouldn't do this. And if you listen to everything, you might not get anywhere as well. So I think being a bit stubborn and believing in yourself, but then also pivoting if it doesn't work out, it's quite important. And I think we've been pretty stubborn. Maybe we also just didn't know a lot of things, but we broke a lot of rules and we didn't follow the playbooks. And it kind of helped us, I think, to get to where we are today. So I get really annoyed by all the generalistic advice on Twitter and LinkedIn, like you should do this or you should invest in this. Like, every product is different, right? And our playbook might probably not work for a different type of. So just the context, and if you talk to people instead of just reading the social media posts, then you usually get a lot more context, and that helps. And anything else, I think for us, I would have hired sooner. We waited really long with growing the team in the beginning because we just didn't have the money. And then we were just building and doing everything ourselves, and then kind of got burned out. And I think we should have onboarded people sooner. So I think the moment you can start building a team, it's so much more fun than doing everything yourself. And it helps you grow as well. So I think those are my biggest pieces of advice.
Marie, thank you so much. I'm glad we finally got to do this after
me too.
6 or 7 attempts, I think. But so much value in there. Thank you very much for your time. Really, really appreciate you coming on the show today.
Thank you.
Marie, if anyone is interested in Tally or they want to get in touch with you, what is the best way for them to reach out?
Yeah, you can follow us. It's mostly Twitter and LinkedIn or Reddit. It's all just at Tally Forums. And I am at Mighty Martens. That's where you can find me. So just drop me a message on any of those. I'm more than happy to help.
I'll stick links to all that down below as well in the YouTube description. Thank you again for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks so much for having me.